They called her the Broken Omega, too weak to shift, too flawed to mate. The Triplet Alpha Kings agreed, until the night her wolf finally surfaced, and she was gold. Ember Calloway had learned to make herself small, not physically. That had happened on its own over the years. At 23, she barely reached most wolves' shoulders, her frame delicate in a way that made pack members avert their eyes. Pity was worse than contempt. At least contempt acknowledged she existed. No, the smallness she'd mastered was different. It lived in the way she kept her gaze down during pack gatherings, how she pressed herself against walls when others passed, the careful neutrality of her expression when the whispers started. Still no shift? Mateless at her age, shameful. Martha should have left her at the border where she found her. Tonight, those whispers filled the great hall of Thornwood Manor like smoke. The autumn gathering drew wolves from across Ashbourne Valley, their excitement crackling through the air as they celebrated another successful harvest season. Everywhere Ember looked, she saw pairs, mates with their hands intertwined, their scents blending into something whole and right. She smelled like nothing. Rain, maybe, something faint and forgettable that made other wolves' noses wrinkle in confusion. "Stand up straight." Martha's gentle voice cut through her thoughts. Her adoptive mother adjusted Ember's shawl with practiced hands, covering the curve of her shoulders. "You're beautiful, sweetheart. Don't let them make you forget." "Beautiful." Ember bit back the bitter laugh. "Beauty didn't matter when your wolf never woke. When your 23rd birthday came and went without a mate bond. When pack law stated clearly that unbonded Omegas over 25 would be sent to the territories. 2 years. She had 2 years left before exile. The Kings are here." Someone's excited whisper rippled through the crowd. The hall's energy shifted. Anticipation replaced casual conversation. Even the musicians faltered, their notes dying as every head turned toward the entrance. Ember's stomach clenched. She'd never seen the Triplet Alphas in person. Few had. They ruled from Thornwood Manor, their presence more myth than reality to common pack members like her. But everyone knew the stories. Asher Thorn, Cole Thorn, Grey Thorn, born in the same hour to Queen Regent Isla, blessed by the moon herself according to legend. 3 alphas sharing one throne, one purpose. Their combined strength had brought peace to Ashbourne Valley after decades of territorial wars. The crowd parted like water. 3 men entered, and Ember forgot how to breathe. They moved with identical predatory grace, though everything else about them contrasted sharply. The one in front wore darkness like a second skin, black suit, black hair, eyes the color of winter storms. His face could have been carved from marble, beautiful and cold and completely untouchable. The second matched him in height but radiated contained violence. Broader shoulders, a warrior's build barely civilized by formal clothes. Dark blonde hair, a scar cutting through one eyebrow. His gaze swept the room like he was cataloging threats. The third smiled. It softened his features, made him approachable despite the alpha power rolling off him in waves. Lighter hair, warmer eyes. Where his brothers looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, he seemed genuinely pleased to see their pack gathered. "Asher, Cole, and Grey," Martha whispered unnecessarily. "In that order. The Queen Regent says they came out fighting over who'd be first." Ember watched them ascend to the raised platform at the hall's front, watched how the crowd pressed closer, desperate for acknowledgement. A few brave Omegas postured, displaying themselves hopefully. The Kings ignored them all. "Welcome!" Asher's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence fell instantly. "We gather tonight to honor the old ways, to celebrate our pack's strength and prosperity." His gaze swept the crowd. Ember shrank back instinctively. "But prosperity requires vigilance," Asher continued. "Requires each member to contribute their strength to the whole, to honor the bonds that make us unbreakable." Bonds. Ember's chest tightened. "As is tradition," Cole's rougher voice took over, "we acknowledge those who came of age this year, those who found their mates and strengthened our pack." Names were called. Young wolves stepped forward, beaming, hands clasped with their partners. The crowd cheered each one. Ember counted 12 pairs, 12 wolves younger than her who'd found what she never would. "And now," Gray's gentler tone somehow carried just as far, "we honor those still waiting." those the moon has not yet blessed with their match. Ember's stomach dropped. No, they wouldn't. They couldn't. All unbonded wolves over 20 stepped forward. She couldn't move, couldn't make her legs work. Ember! Martha's hand pressed her lower back, not pushing, just reminding. You have to. Around her, others shuffled forward, mostly young men, a handful of women, all of them radiating discomfort but not shame. They were 20, 21, still within the acceptable range. Then there was her. Ember forced herself to walk. Each step felt like moving through water. She kept her eyes on the floor, counting the stones. Anything to avoid the stairs burning into her skin. The unbonded. Asher's voice held no inflection. The moon works in mysterious ways. Some wait months for their mate, others years. A pause that stretched too long. And some, Councilman Garrett Ashford's voice rang out, will wait forever. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not loud, not cruel exactly, just acknowledging an uncomfortable truth. Ember's face burned. The mateless, Garrett continued, warming to his subject. Those without wolves strong enough to call to a mate. Nature's way of... Councilman, Gray's interruption was soft but absolute. That's enough. My apologies, Your Highness. I merely meant to point out that at a certain age, perhaps these individuals should accept... I said enough. The hall went silent. Ember risked a glance upward. Gray was looking directly at Garrett, his expression pleasant, but his eyes hard as diamonds. The councilman paled, bowing his head quickly. Then Gray's gaze swept across the line of unbonded wolves, paused, stopped, on her. Ember's breath caught. For one impossible moment, the Alpha King's attention focused entirely on her. His nostrils flared slightly, head tilting as if catching a scent he couldn't quite place. His brothers noticed. Both Asher and Cole turned, following Gray's line of sight. 3 pairs of eyes locked onto her. The air grew heavy, electric. Something passed between the triplets, a glance, a tension Ember couldn't interpret. Cole's jaw clenched. Asher's expression remained unreadable, but his fingers curled against his thigh. Gray took a step forward. The crowd shifted, murmuring. Everyone could feel it. The sudden weight of alpha attention on one insignificant Omega. What's your name? Gray's voice carried across the space between them. Ember's mouth went dry. Ember Calloway, Your Highness. Calloway. Asher repeated the name like testing its weight. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? Recognition? How old are you, Ember? Cole's rougher tone held an edge she couldn't identify. 23. More murmurs. 23 and still unbonded, still unable to shift. The evidence of her defectiveness laid bare before everyone who mattered. And you live here? In Ashbourne Valley? Gray asked. Yes, Your Highness. My whole life. Not quite true. Martha found her at the border as an infant, wrapped in blood-stained cloth. But that wasn't something you announced at formal gatherings. The triplets exchanged another loaded glance, some wordless conversation happening in the space between them. Then Asher spoke, his voice carrying that absolute authority that made wolves' instincts scream to obey. The ceremony is concluded. Everyone return to your celebrations. Just like that, the attention shifted away. The crowd began to disperse, relief palpable. Music started again, conversations resumed, but the Kings didn't move. They stood on that platform, 3 sets of eyes still fixed on her, and Ember knew with terrible certainty that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't begin to understand. Miss Calloway. Asher's voice cut through the noise. Remain. We would speak with you. The words landed like stones in her chest. Martha's hand found hers, squeezing tight. It'll be all right, she whispered, though her voice shook. But as Ember watched the crowd part around her, as she felt the weight of those 3 devastating gazes, she knew nothing would be all right ever again. They'd finally noticed her, and she had no idea if that was a blessing or a curse. The hall didn't empty fast enough. Ember stood frozen as wolves filed past, their curious glances scraping across her skin like claws. Some tried to be subtle about it, others stared openly, whispering behind their hands. What do they want with her? Maybe they're sending her away early. Poor thing, imagine being called out like that. Martha's grip on her hand tightened to the point of pain, but Ember welcomed it. The pressure kept her grounded, kept her from bolting toward the door like every instinct screamed at her to do. The Triplet Kings remained on the platform, waiting. Asher's expression could have been carved from ice. Cole looked like he was restraining himself from pacing, his shoulders bunched with tension. Gray alone seemed calm, but his eyes never left her face. Finally, blessedly, the last stragglers filtered out. The musicians packed their instruments. Servants began clearing tables with practiced efficiency. Everyone out. Asher's command cut through the bustling activity. The servants moved faster. Within moments, the massive hall stood empty except for Ember, Martha, and the three alphas who ruled everything she'd ever known. Martha Brennan. Gray addressed her adoptive mother with surprising gentleness. "Would you mind giving us a moment alone with Ember?" Martha's voice wavered. "Your Highness, she's just a girl. If there's been some offense—" "No offense." Gray descended the platform steps, moving with that fluid grace that marked predators. "We simply have questions. About her family. Her history." Ember's stomach dropped. They couldn't know. No one knew except Martha, and she'd sworn never to tell. "I don't understand." Martha positioned herself slightly in front of Ember, protective despite the obvious power imbalance. "Ember has no family. I found her as an infant." "There's nothing to discuss." "Found her where?" Cole's voice held an edge that made Ember's pulse spike. "At the border, wrapped in cloth, alone." Martha's chin lifted. "I followed every protocol, reported her to the council. No one claimed her. She's been mine to raise these 23 years, and I'll not have—" "Mrs. Brennan." Asher's tone froze the air between them. "We're not questioning your guardianship, but we need to speak with her, privately." It wasn't a request. Martha turned to Ember, worry etched in every line of her face. "I'll be right outside. You call for me if you need anything at all." Ember managed a nod. Watched her only family walk toward the doors, each step widening the distance between safety and whatever came next. The doors closed with a heavy thud. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. Ember kept her gaze on the floor, on the intricate pattern of inlaid stone that must have cost more than Martha earned in a lifetime. "Look at me." Asher's command pulled at something deep in her chest. Her wolf stirred, that dormant, broken thing that never fully woke. It rolled over, responding to the alpha's voice with instincts Ember didn't fully understand. Her head lifted before she could stop it. All three of them had descended from the platform. They formed a loose semicircle around her, close enough that their scents reached her nose. Pine and winter storm from Asher, cold and sharp. Leather and smoke from Cole, dark and dangerous. Cedar and honey from Gray, warmer but no less potent. Combined, they made her head spin. "What's your earliest memory?" Gray asked. The question caught her off guard. What?" "Your earliest memory," he repeated patiently. "What do you remember from before Martha found you?" "Nothing. I was an infant." "No dreams?" Cole pressed. "No flashes of images that don't quite make sense?" Ember's mouth went dry. She did have dreams, strange ones, filled with voices she didn't recognize, and a lullaby that made her chest ache. But she'd never told anyone, not even Martha. "I don't understand what this is about." She hated how small her voice sounded. "Did I do something wrong? If it's about the ceremony, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have been there with the younger wolves, but tradition requires—" "You did nothing wrong." Gray's immediate reassurance should have comforted her. Instead, it made her more nervous. Asher circled slowly, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Your scent. It's unusual." Heat flooded her face. "I know, I'm sorry. I've tried different herbs, different soaps, but nothing seems—" "Don't apologize." Cole's sharp interruption made her flinch. His expression softened fractionally. "That's not what he meant." "Then what did you mean?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Ember immediately regretted her boldness. "I apologize, Your Highness. I didn't mean to—" "Stop apologizing." Asher had moved behind her. She felt his presence like heat against her back, felt the way her dormant wolf perked up at his proximity. "And answer the question. Have you always smelled like this?" I don't know. I can't smell myself." "Rain," Gray murmured, tilting his head. "Moonflower, something else underneath. Something I can't quite... He trailed off, moving closer. Too close. Ember's breath hitched as he leaned in, his nose nearly brushing her hair. Her whole body went rigid. This was wrong. Alphas didn't get this close unless they were family or mates, and she was neither. But her wolf, that traitorous broken thing, seemed to purr at the attention. "Gray," Asher's voice held warning. Gray stepped back immediately, but his eyes had darkened. "Do you feel that?" "Yes." Cole's single word came out rough. "Feel what?" Ember looked between them, confusion mixing with something that felt dangerously close to hope. "I don't understand what's happening." "Neither do we." Asher appeared in front of her again, his winter storm eyes searching her face. "But something about you is... familiar. Like a memory I can't quite reach. That's impossible. I've never met any of you before tonight." "Are you certain?" Gray asked. "I think I'd remember meeting the Alpha Kings." Cole made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Fair point." Asher continued his circling. Ember fought the urge to turn with him, to keep him in sight. Predator and prey, that's what this felt like. But her wolf didn't feel like prey. Her wolf felt awake. More awake than it had been in years. She could feel it pacing inside her, restless and agitated, responding to their presence in ways that made no sense. "The cloth Martha mentioned," Asher said. "The one you were wrapped in. Does she still have it?" Yes, I think so. She kept a box of things from when she found me. Not much, just the cloth and a few other items." "We need to see them." "Why?" Frustration finally broke through Ember's fear. "What is this about? Why do you care about some abandoned Omega? I'm nobody. I can't shift." "I can't bond. In 2 years I'll be exiled anyway, so why does any of this matter?" The temperature in the room plummeted. "Exiled?" Cole's voice had gone dangerously soft. "Pack law," Ember said. "Unbonded Omegas over 25 are sent to the territories. Everyone knows that." "That law was repealed 3 years ago." Asher's tone could have cut steel. The floor tilted beneath Ember's feet. "What?" "My mother repealed it." Gray's expression had hardened. "One of her first acts as Queen Regent. No wolf is exiled for being unbonded. Who told you otherwise?" "The council. Councilman Garrett specifically. He said..." The words dried up in her throat. Garrett Ashford, the man who'd mocked her tonight, the man who'd made sure she knew exactly how worthless she was at every opportunity. "The council," Asher repeated, ice forming around each syllable. "We'll be having words with Councilman Garrett." "I don't understand," Ember's voice shook. "Why would he lie?" The triplets exchanged another one of those loaded glances, some wordless communication that excluded her completely. "We have theories," Gray said carefully, "but we need more information before we can be certain." "Theories about what?" "About who you really are." The room spun. Ember grabbed the edge of a nearby table to steady herself. "I'm nobody. I'm just Ember. Just a broken Omega who..." "You're not broken." Cole's vehemence startled her. He'd moved closer without her noticing, now standing near enough that she could see gold flecks in his eyes. "Don't ever say that again." "But I can't shift. My wolf won't..." "Your wolf is there." Gray appeared on her other side. "I can feel her." "She's just... sleeping." "Sleeping," Ember repeated numbly. "For 23 years." "Suppressed," Asher corrected from behind her. "The question is why, and by whom?" Fear sliced through her confusion. "Suppressed? That's not possible. You'd need powerful magic for something like that. Dark magic." "Yes." Asher's agreement held no comfort. "You would." Ember's legs gave out. Strong arms caught her before she hit the floor. Cedar and honey surrounded her as Gray lifted her easily, cradling her against his chest like she weighed nothing. "Easy," he murmured. "Breathe." She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Someone had deliberately broken her wolf, made her an outcast, made her believe she was defective when really she'd been sabotaged. Cole voiced what she couldn't. "Someone sabotaged you as an infant." "But why?" The question came out as a broken whisper. "Why would anyone do that?" "To hide you," Asher said. "To make sure no one looked too closely. To keep you powerless." "Keep me from what?" Gray's arms tightened around her. His heart beat steady against her ear, grounding her when everything else felt like quicksand. From us, he said quietly. We think someone was keeping you from us. The words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. But her wolf, that dormant, suppressed thing, suddenly surged inside her chest. And for the first time in her life, Ember felt her shift begin. Pain, white-hot and absolute, like her bones were trying to break through her skin from the inside out. Ember's scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. Gray's arms released her immediately as she doubled over, collapsing onto the cold stone floor. Her hands clawed at her chest, her arms, anywhere the fire burned hottest. What's happening to her? Cole's voice came from somewhere above her, sharp with alarm. Her wolf. Gray's answer sounded distant, muffled by the roaring in her ears. It's trying to surface. Now? After 23 years it chooses now? Ember couldn't respond, couldn't think past the sensation of something breaking apart inside her. Like a shell cracking, like chains snapping one by one, her skin rippled. She watched in horror as fur began to sprout along her forearms, golden, catching the lamplight, before disappearing again. It's fighting the suppression. Asher's clinical tone cut through her panic. The magic is still active. It won't let her shift. Then stop it. Cole dropped to his knees beside her. His large hands hovered over her shoulders, uncertain. Can't you break the spell? Not without knowing what kind of magic was used. We could make it worse. Another wave of agony crashed through her. Ember's back arched, muscles seizing. She felt her jaw elongate, felt her teeth sharpen, felt her bones begin to reshape. Then it all reversed. The pain of shifting backward was somehow worse than shifting forward, like being torn apart and stitched back together wrong. Ember, Gray's voice, gentle but commanding. Listen to me. You need to stop fighting it. Can't, she gasped. Can't stop. It won't. Not your wolf. The magic. Stop fighting the magic. But I know it feels wrong. I know every instinct is screaming at you to break free, but if you keep pushing, you could hurt yourself permanently. The authority in his voice reached past her panic, reached that deep place where her wolf recognized Alpha and responded before conscious thought could interfere. Her body went limp. The pain didn't disappear, but it dulled to something bearable. Her wolf retreated, whimpering. Ember felt the sensation of it curling up inside her chest, exhausted and confused. Good. Gray's hand settled on her shoulder, warm and steady. Just breathe. Let it settle. Ember dragged air into her lungs, once, twice. The trembling in her limbs gradually subsided. She became aware of her surroundings again, the cool stone beneath her cheek. The 3 alphas crowded around her, their combined sense overwhelming in their intensity. The door rattling as Martha pounded from the other side. Ember! Ember, what's happening? Let me in. She's all right, Gray called out. Just a moment. Like hell she is. I heard her scream. Asher moved toward the door. Mrs. Brennan, I understand your concern, but open this door right now or I'll get the entire pack guard. A ghost of a smile crossed Asher's face. Protective. She raised me. Ember's voice came out hoarse. Of course she's protective. Then she'll understand we're trying to help. But Asher pulled the door open anyway. Martha burst through like an avenging angel, her eyes wild as they found Ember still crumpled on the floor. She shoved past Cole, actually shoved an Alpha King, and dropped beside her. What did you do to her? Martha's hands ran over Ember's face, her arms, checking for injuries. I swear to the moon, if you've hurt her. We didn't hurt her. Gray's voice remained calm. Her wolf tried to shift. Martha froze. That's impossible. We thought so too. Ember can't shift. She's never been able to. Martha's words died as she really looked at her, at the golden fur still clinging to her forearms before fading completely, at the way her eyes reflected light they shouldn't. Oh, gods. Help me up. Ember reached for her. Please. Between Martha and Gray, they got her standing. Her legs felt like water, barely supporting her weight. She leaned heavily against Martha, breathing through the lingering ache in her bones. This doesn't make sense. Martha's voice shook. The healers checked her, multiple times over the years. They all said the same thing. No wolf. Dormant or dead, they couldn't tell which. but definitely not suppressible, because there was nothing to suppress. They were wrong, Cole's blunt statement hung in the air. Or they lied, Asher added. The implication settled over Ember like ice water. The healers, the council. How many people had known the truth? How many had actively worked to keep her broken? I want to go home. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. I want to leave, now. Ember, Gray started. No. She pulled away from Martha's support, forced her trembling legs to hold her weight. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up and destroy everything I thought I knew about myself, and then act like it's somehow helping. We're trying to protect you. Gray's expression remained gentle, but something hardened in his eyes. If someone suppressed your wolf as an infant, they had a reason. A dangerous reason. Maybe they did it because I'm nobody. Ember's laugh came out bitter. Maybe whoever my real parents were, they just didn't want a broken pup. Did you think of that? You're not broken, Cole repeated, frustrated now. How many times do we have to— Then what am I? The question exploded out of her. You keep saying I'm suppressed, I'm hidden, I'm protected. From what? For what? I'm just an Omega. I can't shift. I have no family, no power, no value to anyone. So why would anyone care enough to curse me? Silence fell. The triplets exchanged another one of those loaded glances. Ember wanted to scream at them to just speak, to stop communicating in a language that excluded her. Show her, Gray said quietly. We don't know for certain, Asher countered. She deserves to know what we suspect. Suspect what? Ember looked between them. What are you talking about? Cole moved first. He crossed to the platform where they'd stood earlier, to a section of wall covered in a massive tapestry. With one sharp tug, he pulled it down. Behind it, carved into the stone itself, was a family tree. Ember recognized some of the names. The Thorn lineage going back generations. Alphas and their mates, their children, the complex web of bloodlines that formed the pack's royal family. Here. Gray guided her closer, his hand light on her lower back. He pointed to a branch near the bottom. This is our grandmother, Queen Moira Thorn. She had 2 daughters. Ember followed the carved lines. One daughter's name she knew, Isla Thorn, the current Queen Regent, mother to Asher, Cole, and Gray. The other daughter's name had been deliberately scratched out. Someone had taken a blade or chisel and gouged deep marks through the stone, obliterating whatever name had been there. But they couldn't erase the branch itself. Couldn't erase the line extending from the ruined name to a single descendant. The space where that descendant's name should have been carved remained blank, empty, waiting. Queen Moira's younger daughter was named Lyra, Gray said softly. She was our aunt. She chose a mate outside the noble bloodlines, a warrior named Marcus Calloway. The floor tilted again. The queen was furious, Gray continued, forbade the union, but Lyra and Marcus ran anyway. They disappeared 24 years ago. No one's seen them since. Until a year later, Cole added, his voice rough. When Martha Brennan reported finding an infant at the border, wrapped in cloth bearing the Thorn family crest. No, this was insane. They were wrong. They had to be wrong. Lyra would have been my age when she disappeared. Ember's words came out strangled. If she had a child, that child would be— 23, Asher finished. The same age you are now. This is crazy. Ember backed away from the wall, from them, from the impossible thing they were suggesting. You're telling me you think I'm— what? A lost princess? That's ridiculous. Is it? Gray asked. You were found at the border as an infant. You have no memory of your parents. Your wolf was suppressed by magic powerful enough to last over 2 decades, and your scent— He moved closer. Ember retreated until her back hit the wall. Your scent, he repeated, is moonflower and rain, the exact combination that marked Lyra, a scent so rare it only appears in direct royal bloodlines. Coincidence, Ember whispered, but her voice held no conviction. Your name, Cole said. Ember Calloway. Did Martha give you that name? I don't know. She never said. I assumed— Calloway was your father's name, Asher interrupted. If Martha found you wrapped in cloth with the family crest, she would have known. known who you were, known what it meant. The betrayal of that hit like a fist to the chest. Martha knew. All these years, she knew, and she never said anything. She was protecting you, Gray said gently, reading her expression. If you're who we think you are, then you're the rightful heir, Asher finished. Our cousin. And a direct threat to whoever wanted Lyra and Marcus dead. The words hung in the air between them. Ember stared at these three alphas, at the family tree carved in stone, at the empty space waiting for a name. Her name. And then she did the only rational thing she could think of. She ran. Ember made it 3 steps before Gray caught her arm. Not roughly. His grip was gentle, almost apologetic, but absolutely immovable. She yanked against it anyway, desperation overriding common sense. Let me go. Ember, please. His voice held that same maddening patience. Just listen. No. She twisted, pulling harder. Her shoulder wrenched, but his hold didn't budge. I don't want to hear any more of this insanity. I'm not a princess. I'm not anyone important. You're wrong. We could be wrong, Gray agreed, which somehow made it worse. That's why we need to investigate. Why we need you to stay while we figure this out. Stay? Panic clawed up her throat. You mean you're keeping me here? Against my will? For your protection, Asher's tone suggested he found her resistance inconvenient. If someone suppressed your wolf to hide your identity, they won't be pleased to learn you're drawing attention. Then I'll leave. I'll go far away where no one knows me and you can forget I exist. Too late for that. Cole positioned himself between her and the door, not threatening, just blocking. Half the pack saw us single you out tonight. Word will spread. Whoever wanted you hidden will know we're asking questions. The trap closed around her with surgical precision. Ember's breathing quickened, her chest tightening. Martha! She looked desperately at her adoptive mother, who stood frozen near the entrance. Tell them they're wrong. Martha's face crumpled. Baby, Don't. The word came out sharp as broken glass. Don't call me that. Not if you've been lying to me my whole life. I never lied to you. Martha's voice broke. I didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. No, it's not. Martha stepped forward, hands outstretched like approaching a spooked animal. I found you wrapped in silk bearing the royal crest. You were hypothermic, barely breathing. There was so much blood on the cloth. I thought you were injured too. Too. The word hung between them. Your parents. Martha's eyes glistened. They were dead, sweetheart. Whoever left you there killed them first. I could smell the blood, could see the claw marks in the trees. It was a massacre. Ember's knees buckled. Gray's other arm came around her waist, holding her upright. I reported it, Martha continued, tears streaming now. Went straight to the council, told them everything I'd seen, and Councilman Garrett looked me dead in the eye and said if I valued my life, I'd forget what I found. Said the infant was clearly cursed, clearly unwanted by the moon herself, and the kindest thing would be to leave her at the border for the elements to claim. But you didn't. Gray's quiet statement made Martha's chin lift. No, I damn well didn't. I took her home, I loved her, and I kept my mouth shut because I knew. Her voice cracked. I knew if Garrett was involved, telling the truth would get us both killed. The pieces clicked together in Ember's mind with sickening clarity. Garrett Ashford, the man who'd mocked her publicly tonight. The man who'd lied about exile laws. The man who'd made sure she believed herself worthless. He'd known all along. He's been watching me. The realization tasted like ash. All these years, making sure I stayed, what, broken? Powerless? Invisible, Asher corrected. His expression had gone glacial. He needed you to be someone no one looked at twice. An unbonded Omega was perfect, pitied but ignored. Until tonight. Cole's hands curled into fists. Until we noticed. This is insane. Ember pulled free of Gray's support, needing distance even though her legs trembled. You're talking about conspiracy and murder and hidden heirs like it's normal, like it makes sense. It doesn't have to make sense to be true, Gray said gently. Then prove it. She spun to face them. If I'm really this lost princess, there has to be proof. Real proof, not just theories and coincidences. The triplets exchanged glances again. that wordless communication that made her want to scream. "The cloth Martha mentioned," Asher said. "If it bears the royal crest and bloodstains, we can test them, verify the blood belongs to Lyra and Marcus." "And my wolf?" Ember's voice shook. "If someone suppressed it, can you fix it?" "We need to identify the magic first." Gray moved closer, cautious. "Which means examining you, having our healers, trustworthy ones, run tests." "How long will that take?" "Days, maybe weeks." "Weeks." The word settled over her like a sentence. Weeks trapped here in Thornwood Manor, surrounded by luxury and suspicion, and 3 alphas who looked at her like she was a puzzle to solve. "I want Martha with me." The demand came out stronger than she felt. "If I'm staying, she stays too." "Of course," Gray agreed immediately. "And I want to know everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. If someone killed my—" The word caught in her throat. "If someone killed Lyra and Marcus, I deserve to know why." "Agreed," Asher said. "And if you're wrong—" Ember lifted her chin, meeting his winter-storm gaze directly. "If I'm not who you think I am, you let me go. No questions, no interference. I go back to my life, and you forget I exist." Asher's jaw tightened. For a long moment, he just stared at her, something unreadable flickering in his expression. "If we're wrong," he said finally, "you can go." It wasn't quite a promise, but it was close enough. "Then I'll stay." The words felt like surrender and defiance all at once. "But I'm not sleeping in some guest room where anyone can get to me. Martha and I stay together." "You'll have the East Wing," Gray said. "Private quarters, separate entrance. We'll post guards." "Guards to keep people out or keep me in?" Gray's smile was sad. "Both, probably." At least he was honest. Cole moved away from the door, pulling it open. "I'll arrange for your things to be brought up, both of you." Martha made a small sound of protest. "I don't have things worth bringing. I'm not—" "You raised the woman who might be our cousin." Cole's gruff voice somehow made it sound simple. "That makes you family. You'll be treated accordingly." The kindness in his tone made Ember's throat tight. She looked away, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. Tomorrow she'd wake up in Martha's tiny cottage, and this would all be some fever dream brought on by too much wine at the gathering. Except her bones still ached from her wolf's attempted shift. Her skin still remembered the sensation of fur trying to break through. And these 3 alphas still watched her with expressions that mixed concern and calculation in equal measure. "Come on, sweetheart." Martha's arms circled her shoulders. "Let's get you somewhere you can rest." Rest, as if sleep would be possible with her world fracturing around her. But she let Martha guide her toward the door. Let Gray fall into step beside them, his presence somehow steadying despite everything. Cole led the way through corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly, all dark wood and expensive paintings. Asher brought up the rear. Ember could feel his gaze on her back, heavy as a physical touch. They climbed a grand staircase, turned down another hallway. The manor was massive. She'd never been past the Great Hall before, had never imagined she'd have reason to. Here. Cole pushed open a set of double doors. The suite beyond made Ember stop breathing. It was larger than Martha's entire cottage. Sitting room, bedroom, what looked like a private bathing chamber beyond. Windows that overlooked the valley, moonlight spilling across plush carpets and elegant furniture. "This is too much," she whispered. "This is appropriate." Asher's voice came from directly behind her. Close enough that his scent wrapped around her, pine and winter storm mixing with the others until her head spun. "If you're family, you'll be treated as such. If—" The word was a lifeline and a noose all at once. Martha squeezed her shoulder. "I'll be in the adjoining room, just through there." She pointed to a connecting door. "You call if you need anything." Ember nodded, not trusting her voice. The triplets lingered in the doorway. 3 shapes backlit by corridor lamps, haloed in soft gold. "Try to rest," Gray said gently. "We'll talk more tomorrow." Tomorrow. When they'd start testing her blood, examining her wolf, digging into a past she'd never known she had. "Wait." The word escaped before she could stop it. What if I am Lyra's daughter? What does that mean? For me? For the pack?" The triplets looked at each other, that silent conversation again. It means, Asher said carefully, that you're not just our cousin. You're third in line for the throne. The floor disappeared beneath her feet. And it means, Gray continued, his voice soft but absolute, that we're bound by law to protect you, with our lives if necessary. Which also means, Cole added, something fierce entering his tone, that anyone who wants to hurt you will have to go through us first. The promise in those words should have terrified her, should have felt like a cage closing. Instead, for reasons she couldn't begin to understand, it felt like safety. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Ember stood in the center of the opulent suite, still feeling the weight of those three promises. Protection, safety, lives laid down for hers if necessary. She'd never been worth protecting before. Ember? Martha's tentative voice pulled her back. You should sit down. You're pale as moonlight. Third in line for the throne. The words came out disconnected, like someone else was speaking through her mouth. That's what he said. Third in line. I heard. But that would make me... Her breath caught. That would make me more important than them. The triplets share the throne, but I'd be... Above them in succession, Martha finished quietly. If Isla steps down or passes, the crown would go to you before them, because your mother was the elder daughter. The room spun. Ember reached for the back of a chair, gripping the velvet upholstery until her knuckles went white. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out raw. All these years, you let me think I was nothing. Nobody. I let you survive, Martha's voice cracked. Do you understand what they would have done if they'd known? If Garrett or whoever killed your parents realized you were alive? Martha moved to the window, her reflection ghostly in the dark glass. There was a time before you were born when Queen Moira's court was divided. Some believed Lyra should inherit. The elder daughter, they said, strong, intelligent, beloved by the people. Others supported Isla. She was more traditional, more willing to follow the old ways. Ember forced herself to move, to cross the room and stand beside Martha. Outside, the valley stretched dark and endless, dotted with scattered lights from distant homes. What happened? Lyra chose love over power. Martha's reflection smiled sadly. She met Marcus during a border patrol. He was a warrior, strong, honorable, but common-born. No title, no wealth. The queen forbade the match. But they ran anyway. They ran. Martha turned to face her. And for a year, there was peace. Isla took the throne when Moira passed, mated with the Alpha King, gave birth to the triplets. Everyone assumed Lyra was gone for good, that she'd chosen her mate over her birthright, and that was the end of it. Until she got pregnant. Martha nodded. Until rumors started, whispers that Lyra had a child, that the elder daughter's bloodline continued, and suddenly peace wasn't guaranteed anymore. Ember's hand drifted to her stomach, imagining a mother she'd never known carrying her, running for her life while pregnant, terrified but determined. They came in the night. Martha's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I was out gathering herbs near the border. I heard screaming. By the time I got there, it was over. Your parents. She swallowed hard. They fought. Gods, they fought so hard. But there were too many. The attackers left nothing but blood and claw marks. And me. And you, wrapped in silk, hidden in the hollow of a tree. You weren't crying, weren't making any sound at all. I thought you were dead too, until I picked you up and felt your heartbeat. Tears burned behind Ember's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. The suppression, someone would have had to cast it right after, while I was still covered in your mother's blood, Martha finished. Yes, which means whoever killed them had a witch or warlock with them. Someone powerful enough to bind your wolf before you even knew you had one. The cruelty of it stole Ember's breath. They'd murdered her parents, stolen her birthright, and locked away the very thing that made her whole, all before she could even open her eyes. Garrett was on the council then too, Martha continued. When I reported finding you, he was the first to respond. Too quickly, I realized later, like he'd been waiting. He helped kill them. The realization settled in Ember's chest like ice. Or he knew who did. I believe so, but I had no proof, just instinct and fear. So I kept you hidden, kept you safe the only way I knew how. By letting me believe I was broken. Martha flinched. Yes. The admission hung between them, honest and painful and necessary. I hated you sometimes, Ember whispered. For finding me, for raising me in a world where I'd never belong. I wished you'd left me in that tree. I know, Martha's voice shook. I know, baby, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't. Ember's own tears finally spilled over. Don't apologize for saving my life, for loving me when no one else would. She pressed her palms against her eyes. I need time to understand all this. Martha pulled her into an embrace. Her scent, lavender and bread dough, was home. Had always been home, even when Ember resented it. They stood like that for a long moment, both crying quietly, both grieving for different things. Martha for the secrets she'd had to keep. Ember for the parents she'd never known and the life that had been stolen before she could live it. A soft knock interrupted them. Martha pulled back, wiping her eyes quickly. Come in. The door opened to reveal a young woman in servant's dress, her arms full of folded fabric. Begging your pardon, my ladies. His Highness sent up some things for you. Nightclothes, robes, fresh linens. Thank you. Martha took the bundle. That's very kind. The servant hesitated. There's also, Dr. Hayes is here, the royal healer. His Highness asked if she might examine Lady Ember tonight. Tonight? Ember's voice came out sharper than intended. It's nearly midnight. I understand, my lady, but Prince Grey seemed quite concerned about the pain you experienced earlier. Dr. Hayes is the best, very discreet. If you're comfortable, she'd like to just do a preliminary assessment. Ember wanted to refuse, wanted to crawl into that enormous bed and pretend the world would make sense again by morning. But her wolf still ached, still felt wrong inside her chest, like a bird with clipped wings trying to fly. Fine, she said. Send her in. The servant bobbed a curtsy and disappeared. A moment later, an older woman entered, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. She carried a worn leather bag and had the calm, assessing gaze of someone who'd seen everything. Lady Ember. Her voice was warm but professional. I'm Dr. Linnea Hayes. I've served the Thorne family for 30 years. The princes asked me to check on you. The princes. The title felt strange. They'd been the kings all her life. But if she was family, did that change? May I? Dr. Hayes gestured to the sitting area. Ember nodded, moving to the plush sofa. Martha settled beside her, a protective presence. Dr. Hayes knelt with surprising grace for her age, setting her bag down and pulling out various items. A stethoscope, strange glass vials, what looked like crystal stones. I'm going to run some standard diagnostics first, she explained. Then we'll see about this suppression the princes mentioned. May I touch you? Yes. The healer's hands were gentle as she checked Ember's pulse, her breathing, the glands at her throat, professional and methodical. Your heart rate is elevated, Dr. Hayes murmured. Understandable given the evening you've had, but there's something else. An irregularity in your scent. She smells wrong? Martha asked, defensive. Not wrong. Layered. Dr. Hayes leaned closer, breathing in carefully. Like there's something beneath the surface trying to push through, something blocked. She pulled out one of the crystal stones, clear quartz that caught the lamplight. This will detect magical interference. It won't hurt, but it might feel strange. How strange? Like pressure. Or cold water running over your skin. Dr. Hayes held the crystal to Ember's chest, right over her heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to glow. Not bright, just a soft pulse of light, like a heartbeat made visible. There it is, Dr. Hayes breathed. Binding magic. Very old, very strong. Whoever cast this knew exactly what they were doing. Can you break it? Ember asked. Not tonight. Not without knowing the specific spell structure. Breaking magical bindings incorrectly can cause permanent damage. The healer's expression turned grim. But I can confirm that your wolf is there, trapped but alive, and trying very hard to reach you. As if in response, something stirred in Ember's chest, that familiar, not quite presence. Her wolf, acknowledging being seen. She's beautiful, Dr. Hayes said softly. wonder entering her voice. I can feel her, strong and bright and absolutely furious at being caged. Tears pricked Ember's eyes again. All these years she'd thought her wolf was dead, thought she was fundamentally broken. But she'd been fighting against chains Ember hadn't even known existed. I'll need to consult with specialists, Dr. Hayes continued, withdrawing the crystal. Research the type of magic used, but I promise you, Lady Ember, we will free her. How long? Days, maybe a week. A week of knowing her wolf was there, trapped, suffering. A week of being so close to whole but not quite able to reach it. Is there anything we can do in the meantime? Martha asked. Anything to help? Dr. Hayes considered. The prince's presence seems to agitate the binding. Did you notice your wolf reacting to them? Ember nodded. That's actually good. It means the suppression is weakening. Their alpha energy is wearing it down, bit by bit. The more time you spend near them, the faster it will deteriorate. So I should... what? Just hang around 3 Alpha Kings? A small smile crossed the healer's face. If you can bear it, yes, though I suspect they'll make themselves available regardless of your preferences. As if summoned, another knock sounded. This time when the door opened, Gray stood in the hallway, still dressed formally but looking rumpled, exhausted. I apologize for the intrusion, he said. I wanted to check. Dr. Hayes, what's your assessment? Magical suppression, confirmed. We'll need time to break it safely. Something in Gray's expression eased. But you can break it? With time and care, yes. He nodded, then his gaze shifted to Ember. Are you in pain? No, just tired. Then I'll let you rest. But he didn't move, just stood there, backlit by the corridor, looking at her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. Gray? She asked. Earlier when you said you'd protect me with your lives, did you mean that? Yes. No hesitation, no doubt. Why? The question burst out. You don't know me. Don't know if I'm really who you think I am. Why would you risk everything for someone who might be nobody? Gray stepped into the room properly, crossed the space between them until he stood close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Because, he said quietly, nobody deserves what was done to you, and if you are our family, if you are Lyra's daughter, then you've spent 23 years alone when you should have been loved, protected, cherished. His hand lifted, hovering near her face but not quite touching. That ends now. Whether you're a princess or just Ember Calloway from the border, you're under our protection, and nothing... His voice dropped, taking on that alpha command that made her wolf perk up. Nothing will hurt you again. The promise settled over her like a blanket, warm, absolute, terrifying in its certainty. Okay, she whispered. Gray's smile was soft, genuine. Get some rest, Ember. Tomorrow we start finding answers. He left, closing the door quietly behind him. Ember stared at the space where he'd stood, her wolf practically purring in her chest. This was dangerous, these feelings blooming too fast, too strong. She couldn't afford to trust them, couldn't afford to hope, but God's help her, she was starting to anyway. Dr. Hayes packed her bag with efficient movements, the crystal stones clinking softly against glass vials. I'll return in the morning to begin proper treatment. Try to sleep if you can. Sleep. The suggestion felt absurd. How could anyone sleep after learning their entire life was a lie? Martha walked the healer to the door, murmuring quiet thanks. The hallway beyond was empty now, Gray's presence already faded like warmth after a fire dies. But his scent lingered. Cedar and honey, mixing with the faint traces of his brothers. Pine and winter storm from Asher. Leather and smoke from coal. Combined, they created something that made Ember's head spin and her wolf restless. You should change, Martha said gently, returning with the bundle of nightclothes. Get comfortable. Comfortable. Another impossible concept. But Ember took the offered clothing, a silk nightgown far finer than anything she'd ever owned, and disappeared into the bathing chamber. The space was larger than her bedroom back home. Marble surfaces, gold fixtures, a tub that could fit 3 people. She caught her reflection in the mirror above the sink. Same face she'd seen every day of her life. Same dark hair, same green eyes, same small frame that barely looked capable of shifting, even if her wolf had been free. Except now, when she looked closely, She could see hints of someone else. The shape of her jaw, the arch of her brows. Features that might have come from a mother she'd never known. Lyra. The name felt foreign in her mind. She tried to imagine a woman with her face older, stronger, tried to picture her choosing love over a throne. Running into the night with a warrior mate and a child growing inside her. Had she been scared? Had she known they were coming? Had she tried to save Ember? Or had Marcus been the one to hide her in that tree? Questions with no answers, just blood and silence and 23 years of not knowing. Ember changed quickly, folding her gathering dress with shaking hands. The silk nightgown whispered against her skin, too soft, too delicate. Like everything else in this place, it felt borrowed, like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. When she emerged, Martha had turned down the bed and was fussing with the pillows. "You don't have to do that," Ember said. "You're not my servant." "No, I'm your mother." Martha's voice held quiet steel. "And mothers take care of their daughters. Royal blood doesn't change that." The words cracked something in Ember's chest. She crossed the room and pulled Martha into another embrace, breathing in that familiar lavender scent that meant safety. "I love you," she whispered, "even when I'm angry, even when everything's confusing. That doesn't change." Martha's arms tightened. "I love you too, baby girl, more than you'll ever know." They held each other until the trembling in Ember's limbs subsided, until breathing felt possible again. "Try to rest," Martha murmured, pulling back. "I'll be right through that door if you need me." She gestured to the connecting entrance, then kissed Ember's forehead like she had every night for 23 years. Some things, at least, remained constant. Alone finally, Ember climbed into the massive bed. The sheets were impossibly soft, the mattress perfect. She should have felt like royalty. Instead, she felt like an imposter. She stared at the ceiling, counting the carved wooden beams, tried to quiet her racing thoughts. Failed spectacularly. Third in line for the throne, the rightful heir. Someone wanted her dead. Her wolf, trapped inside her for 23 years, fighting against magical chains. And 3 alphas who'd promised to protect her, who looked at her with intensity that made her skin prickle and her heart race, who smelled like everything she'd never known she wanted. Stop it. Ember rolled onto her side, punching the pillow into submission. She couldn't afford to think about them that way. Couldn't afford to feel anything beyond gratitude for their protection. They were helping her because of duty, because she might be family. Because their honor demanded it. Not because they actually cared about Ember the person. Ember the broken Omega who couldn't shift and had no value. "Except you're not broken," a traitorous voice whispered in her mind. "You were sabotaged." The distinction felt important, but she was too exhausted to examine why. She closed her eyes, willed sleep to come. Instead, her wolf stirred. The sensation was different now, stronger. Like Dr. Hayes's examination had awakened something. Her wolf pressed against the invisible barrier, not fighting exactly, more like testing, exploring the boundaries of her cage, and it hurt. Not the sharp, breaking pain from earlier. This was duller, a constant ache that spread through her chest and down her limbs, like growing pains but worse. Like her body knew it should be able to shift and was trying to remember how. Ember bit her lip, refusing to cry out. Martha needed rest too. She wouldn't disturb her over some discomfort. But the ache intensified. Her skin felt too tight. Her bones protested their fixed shape. Her wolf whimpered, confused and desperate. "Please," she thought at it. "Please, just rest. We'll figure this out, I promise." Her wolf's response was wordless but clear. It didn't want to rest. It wanted out. Wanted to run and hunt and howl at the moon it had been denied for decades. Ember pressed her face into the pillow, breathing through the pain. Counted her heartbeats. Tried to focus on anything else. A soft knock made her freeze. "Ember?" Gray's voice muffled through the door. "Are you all right?" No, she wasn't all right. She was in pain and confused and scared and trying desperately not to fall apart. "I'm fine," she called back, proud that her voice didn't shake. Silence. Then, "Your scent says otherwise." Of course, alphas could smell distress. She should have remembered. "It's just my wolf," she admitted. "It's restless. I'll be fine." "May I come in?" Every instinct screamed that letting an alpha into her bedroom at night was dangerous. But the pain spiked again, stealing her breath, and she heard herself say, yes. The door opened slowly. Gray entered, still dressed, but with his jacket removed, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked softer somehow. Less Alpha King, more just man. I couldn't sleep either, he said, staying near the door, respectful of her space. Kept thinking about everything, about you, dealing with all this alone. I'm not alone. Martha's here. She's asleep. I can hear her breathing through the wall. He tilted his head. But you're in pain. I can feel it from the hallway. Ember pulled the covers higher, suddenly aware of how little the nightgown covered. Dr. Hayes said my wolf was fighting the suppression. It's nothing I can't handle. You shouldn't have to handle it alone. I've been handling things alone my whole life. The words came out more bitter than she intended. Gray's expression softened further. I know, he said quietly, and I'm sorry for that, but you don't have to anymore. He moved closer, each step measured, giving her time to object. When she didn't, he settled on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. When we were children, he said, Asher broke his arm during training. Wouldn't admit it hurt, wouldn't ask for help, just kept pushing through until he passed out from the pain. What happened? Cole held him down while I reset the bone. He cursed us both for a week. Gray's smile was fond. But he learned. Sometimes strength means accepting help, admitting when you're hurting. Is this the part where you tell me I'm being stubborn? No, this is the part where I offer to help, and you decide whether to trust me. Ember studied his face in the low lamplight, searched for deception and found only genuine concern. How? She asked. How can you help? Alpha presence can calm an agitated wolf. If you'll allow me, I can try to soothe yours, take away some of the pain. I thought you said your presence made the suppression weaker. It does, but it also provides comfort, balance. Your wolf recognizes alpha authority. It should help her settle. Should. The word wasn't a guarantee. But the pain spiked again, and Ember heard herself whisper, okay. Gray shifted closer, not touching, but near enough that his scent surrounded her, cedar and honey, warm and grounding. Close your eyes, he murmured. Focus on your wolf, on the part of you that's fighting. Ember obeyed, felt that restless presence inside her chest, still pushing against invisible walls. Now breathe with me, slow, deep. His breathing became audible, steady and controlled. Ember matched it without thinking. In, out, in, out. Good. Now I'm going to use my alpha voice. Just a little. Enough to reach your wolf. It might feel strange. Before she could ask what he meant, his voice dropped lower. Took on that resonant quality that made her instincts snap to attention. Easy, he said, and the command rolled through her like warm honey. Rest now. You're safe. Rest. Her wolf reacted instantly. The frantic pushing stopped. The ache in her bones dulled. That's it, Gray continued, his voice wrapping around her like a blanket. No one's going to hurt you. No more fighting tonight. Just rest. Ember felt her whole body relax into the mattress. The tension she'd been holding since the gathering melted away. Her wolf curled up inside her chest, finally still. Better? Gray asked, his voice returning to normal. Yes. She opened her eyes, found him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite name. How did you do that? Alpha gift. We can influence other wolves' emotional states. Usually it's for control, but it can be used for comfort too. That's really useful. His smile was crooked. Has its moments. They fell quiet. The pain had faded to a distant throb, manageable now. Ember should tell him to leave, should thank him, and send him back to his own room. Instead, she heard herself ask, what was she like, Lyra? Gray's expression turned wistful. I barely remember her. I was only 3 when she left, but I remember warmth. She'd visit the nursery and bring us sweets. Tell us stories about the moon goddess and warriors who loved brave enough to choose their own path. She sounds wonderful. She was. Everyone loved her. Even Garrett before... He trailed off. Before what? Gray hesitated. Before she rejected his son. The words landed like stones. What? Thomas Ashford, Garrett's oldest. He tried to court Lyra before she met Marcus. She turned him down, gently, from what I've heard, but firmly. Thomas Ashford. The name tickled something in Ember's memory. Where had she heard it before? Then it hit her. The gathering. Isolde's words cutting through her panic. Is this about that boy again? Are you still pining over Thomas? Landra. The real Landra, whose body Ember apparently resembled enough to cause confusion. She'd been involved with Thomas Ashford. Gray, she said slowly. Do you think Garrett killed my parents because Lyra rejected his son? I think, Gray replied carefully, that Garrett had many reasons to want Lyra dead. Rejected pride, political ambition, fear that she'd take the throne and change the old ways. His jaw tightened. But we'll prove it, and when we do, he'll answer for what he did. The promise in his voice made her shiver, not from fear, from something else entirely. You should sleep, he said, starting to rise. The pain should stay manageable now. Wait. Her hand shot out, catching his wrist. Could you stay? Just until I fall asleep? She expected him to refuse, expected him to cite propriety or duty or any number of reasons why an Alpha King shouldn't keep vigil over an unbonded Omega. Instead, Gray settled back down, his hand turning in her grip until their fingers intertwined. Of course, he said simply. Ember closed her eyes, his warmth and scent surrounding her. His thumb traced idle patterns on the back of her hand, and for the first time since the gathering, she felt safe enough to let sleep claim her. Sleep came in fragments. Ember drifted in and out of consciousness, always aware of Gray's presence beside her. His thumb still traced those gentle patterns on her hand. His breathing remained steady, a rhythm her own matched without thinking. Warmth bloomed in her chest. Not the painful heat of her wolf-fighting suppression, but something softer, something that felt dangerously like trust. She was almost under completely when voices filtered through the door. Harsh, urgent. Gray tensed immediately, his hand tightening around hers. The voices grew louder, closer. Ember's eyes snapped open as footsteps approached. Don't care what time it is. This can't wait. Asher, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. The door burst open without ceremony. Both Asher and Cole stood in the doorway, and the fury radiating off them hit like a physical force. Gray was on his feet instantly, positioning himself between them and the bed. What's wrong? Garrett's gone. Cole's voice came out as a growl. And he's not alone. Ember sat up, clutching the sheets to her chest. Gone where? That's what we'd like to know. Asher's winter storm eyes found hers, and something in his expression made her stomach drop. Along with half the council and their families, they cleared out within an hour of the gathering ending. They ran, Gray said flatly. Or they're planning something. Cole's hands curled into fists. We've got scouts tracking them, but they had too much of a head start. Martha appeared in the connecting doorway, wrapped in a robe, her face pale. What's happening? The wolves who've been lying to Ember for 23 years just fled in the night. Asher's voice held barely contained violence. Draw your own conclusions. Ember's mind raced. Garrett knew. The moment the triplets singled her out, he must have realized his secret was unraveling. So he ran, taking anyone complicit with him. They know I'm Lyra's daughter. The words felt strange on her tongue, less impossible than they had hours ago. They know you'll prove it. Which means they'll try to stop us. Gray turned back to her, concern etched in his features. You're not safe here anymore, not until we find them. What are you saying? We're saying, Cole stepped into the room properly, his warrior's stance making him look even larger, that Garrett just went from suspect to active threat. He's got resources, allies, and 23 years of covering his tracks. He won't go quietly. And if he suspects we're close to proof, Asher continued, moving to the window and peering out into the darkness, he'll do whatever it takes to destroy that proof, which includes me, Ember finished. I'm the proof. Silence confirmed it. Martha made a small sound of distress. Then we run too. Take Ember somewhere safe, somewhere they can't find her. Running didn't save Lyra, Gray said gently but firmly. It won't save Ember either. Then what do we do? Martha's voice rose. Wait here like sitting ducks while murderers plan gods know what? We accelerate. Asher turned from the window. Dr. Hayes will begin treatment immediately. We break the suppression, free Ember's wolf, and prove her identity before Garrett can interfere. That could take days, Gray protested. You heard Dr. Hayes. Breaking magical bindings requires careful, then we make it faster. Asher's tone left no room for argument. Call in every specialist we have. Offer whatever price they name. Ember's wolf gets freed tonight, or we find another way to prove who she is. Tonight? Ember's voice came out small. But Dr. Hayes said breaking it wrong could cause permanent damage. And leaving it intact could get you killed. Asher's bluntness hit like a slap. Which risk do you prefer? Gray moved back to the bed, his expression torn between protocol and protection. We don't have to rush this. We can increase security, keep her guarded. For how long? Cole challenged. Garrett's had 23 years to build his power base. We don't know how deep his influence runs. There could be traitors in our own guard. The room felt smaller suddenly, trapped. Ember looked between the three brothers, watching them divide over her safety. What about the cloth? Martha asked desperately. The one I found her in. Test the bloodstains. Prove they belong to Lyra and Marcus. Already sent for it, Asher said. But that only proves a connection. Garrett could argue she's a cousin, a distant relation. The wolf is undeniable. Royal bloodlines carry distinct markers. If we can free it— If, Gray interrupted. That's a dangerous gamble with her life. Everything is a gamble with her life now. Asher's control cracked slightly. Garrett made sure of that the moment he murdered her parents. The words hung in the air. Ember felt their weight settle in her bones. Her parents. Murdered by the man who'd spent years ensuring she believed herself worthless, who'd mocked her publicly, lied about exile laws, done everything possible to keep her invisible, and now he'd run because his crime was catching up to him. I'll do it. Her voice cut through the tension. Break the suppression. Tonight. Now. Whatever it takes. Ember, Gray started. No. She pushed back the covers, standing on shaking legs. The silk nightgown felt absurdly delicate for such a moment. You said I don't have to be alone anymore. You said I could trust you, so I'm trusting you. Free my wolf. Martha moved to her side immediately. Baby, think about this. If something goes wrong, then at least I tried. Ember met Martha's gaze. I've spent 23 years being afraid, being small, letting people make me believe I was broken. I'm done with that. She turned to face the triplets. You think I'm Lyra's daughter? You think I'm royalty? Then treat me like it. Give me the choice, and I choose to fight. Something shifted in the room's energy. The three brothers exchanged those wordless glances, some understanding passing between them. Finally, Asher nodded. Cole, get Dr. Hayes. Bring whoever else she needs. Gray. I'm staying with her, Gray said flatly. I wasn't going to suggest otherwise. Asher's expression softened fractionally. I'll coordinate security. No one gets into this wing without our explicit permission. Cole was already moving, his long strides carrying him toward the door. Finn's on duty. I'll have him pull our most trusted guards. Wait, Ember's voice stopped him. How do you know they're trustworthy? You said there could be traitors. Cole's smile was sharp. Because the guards I'm thinking of have been with us since we were children. They bled for this family. They'll bleed again if necessary. He disappeared into the hallway, his footsteps fading quickly. Asher moved toward the door as well, then paused, turned back to look at Ember with an intensity that made her breath catch. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I think you're brave. Foolish, perhaps, but brave. Is that supposed to be a compliment? From me? Yes. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Don't die, Ember Calloway. I'd hate to have been wrong about you. Then he was gone too, leaving just Gray and Martha with her in the too large room. This is insane, Martha whispered. Absolutely insane. Probably, Ember agreed. Her hands trembled, but she curled them into fists. But what's the alternative? Hide forever? Let Garrett win? I'd rather you alive and hidden than dead and proved right. I know. Ember pulled Martha into an embrace. But I need to know, need to understand what they took from me, who I really am. Martha's arms tightened. You're my daughter. That's who you are. Royal blood doesn't change that. No, Ember agreed, voice thick. It doesn't. They held each other until footsteps in the hall announced arrivals. Dr. Hayes entered first, her expression grave. Behind her came two other figures, a stern-looking woman with silver streaking her dark hair, and a younger man carrying what looked like ancient books. These are my colleagues, Dr. Hayes said without preamble. Elena Winters, specialist in magical theory. Thomas Cross, historical curses and bloodline magic. Ember's stomach lurched at the name Thomas. But this man was too young to be Garrett's son, mid-20s at most, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Lady Ember. He bowed slightly. I'm honored to help, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Can you break it? Ember asked. The suppression? Can you break it safely? The three specialists exchanged glances. Dr. Hayes spoke first. We can try, but I won't lie to you. What was done to you is complex. Brutal even. Whoever cast this spell wanted your wolf buried so deep it could never surface. They failed, Gray said from beside Ember. Her wolf is fighting, getting stronger. Which makes this both easier and more dangerous, Elena added. The spell is already weakening. If we can accelerate that deterioration in a controlled manner... If, Martha interrupted. What happens if you can't control it? Thomas's expression turned somber. Worst case, the binding snaps violently. Her first shift could be traumatic, painful beyond measure, possibly fatal if her body can't handle the strain. The clinical description made Ember's mouth go dry. Best case? She asked. Best case, Dr. Hayes said. We guide the binding's collapse, channel the energy safely. Your wolf emerges gradually, giving your body time to adjust. How gradually? Hours. Maybe less if the binding is as weak as I suspect. Hours. Ember could do hours. She'd survived 23 years. She could survive a few more hours. Then let's begin, she said. There's something else. Elena stepped forward, her gaze sharp. Breaking a suppression this old will be excruciating. You'll need an anchor, something to focus on besides the pain. An anchor? Usually a mate. Elena's eyes flicked to Gray. An alpha's presence can help stabilize the shift. Their bond provides... We're not mated, Ember said quickly. No, but you're clearly comfortable with Prince Gray. That might be enough. Gray moved closer without being asked. Whatever you need. Ember looked up at him. At the concern in his eyes, the determination in the set of his jaw. She'd known him less than a day. Shouldn't trust him this much, this fast. But her wolf recognized him, responded to him, and right now, that had to be enough. Okay, she whispered. Let's do this. Dr. Hayes began unpacking supplies, crystals, herbs, small vials of liquid that glowed faintly. Elena and Thomas opened their books, consulting in low voices. Martha gripped Ember's hand tight enough to hurt, and Gray's presence settled behind her like a shield, warm and solid and absolutely certain. Whatever happens, he murmured, too quiet for the others to hear. You're not alone. Remember that. Ember nodded, not trusting her voice. Dr. Hayes approached with a crystal, the same one from before, but now it pulsed with light even before touching her skin. This is going to hurt, the healer warned. More than anything you felt before, but you have to stay conscious, have to guide your wolf through the breaking. Can you do that? Yes. The lie tasted bitter, but Ember lifted her chin and met Dr. Hayes's gaze steadily. Then let's free your wolf. Dr. Hayes pressed the crystal to Ember's chest. Fire exploded through her veins. Not metaphorical fire. Actual burning that consumed every nerve ending, every cell, every thought that wasn't pure agony. Ember's scream tore from her throat before she could stop it, raw and animal. Gray's arms came around her immediately, holding her upright as her legs gave out. I've got you, but he didn't. No one did. She was falling through endless pain with nothing to catch her. The binding is fighting back, Elena's voice came from somewhere distant. It's trying to reinforce itself. Counter it, Dr. Hayes commanded. Thomas, the Eastern configuration, now. Hands touched Ember's temples, more crystals pressed against her skin. Each contact point blazed like a brand. Inside her chest, her wolf thrashed, no longer trying to break free, trying to survive. The suppression spell wrapped around it like barbed wire, tightening with every struggle. "Ember!" Gray's voice cut through the roaring in her ears. "Look at me. Focus on me." She couldn't see anything but white-hot pain behind her eyes. "That's an order." Alpha command flooded his tone. Her eyes snapped open against her will. His face swam into focus, inches from hers. Cedar and honey filled her nose, grounding her just enough to remember how to breathe. "Good." His hand cupped her face. "Stay with me. Don't go into the pain. Stay here." "Hurts," she gasped. "Gray, it hurts." "I know, but you're strong enough to bear it." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "You've been bearing it for 23 years. This is just the last bit. Almost free now." Almost free. The words should have brought hope. Instead, they made her want to beg them to stop, to leave the binding intact. Anything to make this agony end. "The suppression is fracturing," Thomas announced. "But the backlash, gods, the amount of magic stored in this spell." "Can you contain it?" Martha's terrified voice. "We're trying. More hands, more crystals." The burning intensified until Ember couldn't tell where her body ended and the pain began. Her wolf howled inside her, a sound of pure anguish. And something answered. 3 somethings. Ember felt them through the haze. Alpha presences that suddenly flooded the room. Not just Gray's warm cedar and honey, but Asher's cold pine and winter storm, Cole's dark leather and smoke, all 3 pressing against the edges of her consciousness. "What are you doing here?" Dr. Hayes demanded. "We felt it," Asher's voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Whatever you're doing, it's wrong." "You're killing her." "We're breaking the suppression. You're breaking her." Cole's growl made Ember's wolf whimper in response. "Stop. Now." "We can't stop midway," Elena protested. "The binding will snap back twice as strong. She'll never be free." "Then do it faster." Asher appeared in Ember's blurred vision, his expression carved from ice, but his eyes burned. "Whatever you need, take it from us." "That's not how—" "Make it how." He grabbed Elena's wrist. "You need power? Energy? Use ours. All 3 of us. Just stop torturing her." Elena stared at him. "You're offering a blood bond? To break another wolf's suppression?" "We're offering whatever it takes." The specialists exchanged rapid glances, some wordless communication Ember couldn't follow through her pain-fogged mind. "It's never been done," Thomas said slowly. "The theory exists, but—" "Then we'll be the first." Gray's arms tightened around Ember. "Tell us what to do." Dr. Hayes hesitated only a moment. "You'll need to connect with her, all 3 of you. Create a channel for the binding's energy to flow through when it breaks. Otherwise, it'll tear her apart from the inside." "How do we connect?" "Physical contact and intent. You have to want it strongly enough that your wolves recognize her as pack, as family. As mate," hung unspoken in the air. "We can do that." Cole moved to Ember's other side, his large hand settling on her shoulder. The touch sent warmth through her, battling the burning. Asher knelt in front of her, his hand covering hers where it clutched Gray's shirt. "Look at me, Ember." She managed to focus on his face, saw something in his expression she'd never expected, fear. Raw and honest and entirely for her. "You're ours to protect," he said, voice low and absolute. "That means your pain is ours too. Let us carry it. Let us help you." "Can't," she gasped. "Too much. You can't." "Watch us." His hand squeezed hers. "We're alphas. We can handle anything, even this." Gray's breath ghosted against her ear. "Trust us." And God's help her she did, despite knowing them for less than a day, despite every logical reason to refuse. She nodded. Dr. Hayes moved quickly, placing crystals at each contact point, where Gray held her, where Cole's hand rested on her shoulder, where Asher gripped her fingers. "This is going to hurt all of you," the healer warned. "When the binding breaks, you'll feel everything she feels. Every ounce of pain stored in that spell for 23 years will flood through your connection." "Do it," all 3 brothers said in unison. Elena began chanting, low words in a language Ember didn't recognize. The crystals pulsed in rhythm with the strange syllables. The burning in Ember's chest intensified impossibly. She screamed again, the sound echoing off the walls. But this time, 3 other voices joined hers, the triplets, all of them crying out as the binding's stored agony transferred through their connection. Ember felt their pain mixing with hers, felt their wolves reaching for her trapped one, and she felt the exact moment the suppression shattered. It didn't break gradually, it exploded. 23 years of compressed magic detonated inside her chest like lightning. The force of it threw everyone backward. Ember hit the floor, her vision going white, then gold. Her wolf surged forward, no longer restrained, no longer docile. It was fury and freedom and power that had been denied too long. Ember's bones cracked, reformed. Her spine arched as her body began to shift. "Don't fight it," Gray's strained voice reached her. "Let it happen. Your wolf knows what to do." But it hurt. Gods, it hurt worse than the binding breaking. Her first shift, happening all at once after 23 years of nothing. Her skin rippled. Fur sprouted along her arms, her legs, golden, catching the lamplight. Her hands curved into claws, her face elongated. She tried to scream, but it came out as a howl. And then it was done. Ember stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life, panting, trembling. Everything felt wrong and right simultaneously. Too many scents. Too many sounds. Her vision sharper but different. She looked down at paws that should have been hands. Saw golden fur covering limbs that were distinctly lupine. Her wolf. Finally free. "Gods," Martha breathed. "Ember, you're beautiful." Beautiful. Ember wanted to laugh. She felt feral, uncontrolled. Her wolf's instincts were overwhelming, screaming at her to run, to hunt, to fight. Easy. Asher's voice cut through the chaos. He was on his feet again, though he looked pale, shaken. "You're safe. You're in control." Control. She had no control. Her wolf wanted, needed movement. Before anyone could stop her, Ember bolted for the window. Her new body moved with a grace she'd never possessed as human. She leaped, crashed through the glass, and hit the ground outside, rolling. Pain registered distantly, cuts from the glass, the impact jarring her bones. But her wolf didn't care. Her wolf was free. She ran, through Thornwood's grounds, past startled guards, into the forest beyond. Trees blurred around her. The wind carried 1,000 scents she'd never been able to detect before. This was what she'd been denied. This speed, this power, this absolute rightness of being in her true form. Behind her she heard pursuit. 3 sets of paws hitting earth in perfect rhythm. The triplets, also shifted, coming after her. Her wolf's response was immediate. Run faster. They were alphas, larger, stronger. But Ember was smaller, more agile. She dodged between trees, leaped over fallen logs, pushed her new body to its limits. One of them, Cole, she thought, recognizing his scent, nearly caught her. His jaws snapped shut inches from her tail. She pivoted, changing direction. Her paws skidded on loose earth, but she recovered, racing deeper into the forest. This was freedom. This was everything. Until a new scent hit her nose. Blood, fear, death. Ember's paws slowed. Her wolf's joyous run stuttered to a stop. That smell. It was familiar somehow. Wrong and familiar and terrifying. The triplets caught up to her, forming a protective circle. All 3 in wolf form. Gray's light golden fur, Cole's darker brown, Asher's almost black coat. They were magnificent, but they'd all gone still. All caught the same scent. Asher shifted first, his transformation smooth and practiced. He stood naked in the moonlight, unconcerned with modesty as he scanned the darkness. "Someone's here," he said quietly. "Someone's been watching." Gray and Cole shifted next, flanking him. All 3 moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. An unspoken choreography of protection. Ember tried to shift back, concentrated on her human form, on hands and skin, and nothing happened. Panic flooded through her. She was stuck in her wolf form because she didn't know how to change back. "It's all right." Gray approached slowly, hands raised. "First shifts can last hours. Your wolf needs time to settle before you can shift back." Hours. She'd be trapped like this for hours. "We need to move," Cole said urgently. "Whatever left that scent is close, and it's not friendly." As if summoned by his words, figures emerged from the shadows. 6 wolves. 7. More materializing from the darkness, their eyes reflecting moonlight. And at their center, a man Ember recognized even in the dim light, Garrett Ashford. "Your Highnesses," he called out, his voice carrying false cheer. "What a lovely night for a run, though I'm surprised to see you've brought guests." His gaze fixed on Ember's golden wolf form, and his smile turned sharp. "Or should I say," he continued, "you've brought the bastard?" The forest went deathly silent. Ember's wolf hackles rose instinctively at the threat, at Garrett's casual cruelty wrapped in false politeness. She couldn't speak in this form, couldn't defend herself with words. Only growls and teeth. But the triplets moved as one. Asher stepped forward, placing himself directly between Garrett and Ember. "Choose your next words very carefully, Councilman." "Councilman no longer, I think." Garrett's smile widened. "I resign my position, effective immediately, which means you have no authority over me." "We have every authority," Cole's voice came out as a snarl. "You're on pack lands. Our lands." "For now," Garrett gestured to the wolves surrounding him. "But territories change hands. History proves that. Your grandmother knew it. Your aunt learned it too late." The casual mention of Lyra's murder made Ember's wolf lunge forward. Gray caught her scruff, holding her back with gentle firmness. "Easy," he murmured. "Not yet." "So she does understand," Garrett observed. "The golden wolf, quite rare that coloring. Only seen in the oldest bloodlines, the royal lines." His expression turned mocking. "Tell me, did the binding break cleanly, or is she damaged goods now? Last warning." Asher's voice dropped to something arctic. "Leave, now, and we might show mercy when we hunt you down." "Mercy," Garrett laughed, the sound brittle. "Like the mercy shown to Lyra, to Marcus? They begged, you know, at the end. Begged us to spare their child." Ember's wolf went rigid, her parents' last moments, thrown at her like weapons. "They didn't know we'd already found the brat," Garrett continued, cruelty sharpening each word. "Didn't know she was wrapped in silk, hidden in that tree, spelled into powerlessness before they took their last breaths. The spell was meant to be permanent, should have been permanent. But it wasn't." Gray's hand remained on Ember's fur, grounding. "Because you underestimated her, underestimated us." "Perhaps." Garrett's gaze swept over them. "Or perhaps I simply waited for the right moment, the moment when freeing her would tear this pack apart." "What are you talking about?" Cole demanded. "Think about it." Garrett spread his hands. "A lost heir suddenly discovered, third in line for the throne. Ahead of the triplets, everyone's accepted as future kings. What happens to pack law, to succession, to the stability you've all worked so hard to maintain?" The words landed like poison. Ember felt their impact ripple through the triplets' connection, felt their wolves stirring with unease. "She divides you," Garrett pressed. "Already I can see it. 3 alphas, 1 omega, royal blood calling to royal blood. How long before you fight over who gets to claim her, before this fragile peace shatters?" "You're wrong." Asher's certainty cut through the manipulation. "You're projecting your own weakness onto us, your jealousy, your obsession with power." "Am I?" Garrett's smile turned knowing. "Then tell me, Your Highness, if Ember claims her birthright, takes her place as heir, what happens to you? To your brothers? Do you bow to her? Serve her? Or do you fight?" Silence stretched too long. Ember's wolf whined, suddenly afraid, not of Garrett, of the doubt his words created. She didn't want the throne, didn't want to come between the brothers who'd risked everything to free her. But what if Garrett was right? What if her existence destroyed the only good thing this pack had? 3 alphas who ruled together, balanced each other, kept peace. "We don't fight," Gray's voice rang clear, "because Ember isn't a threat. She's family." "Family you've known for a day." Garrett's laugh was sharp. "How noble, how convenient. And when your mother demands answers, when the pack questions why you're protecting a girl who could strip away everything you've built, then we'll have answers." Cole moved to Ember's other side, his presence solid. "The truth. Something you've been running from for 23 years. Truth is relative, boy." Garrett's expression hardened, and witnesses can be silenced. The wolves surrounding him tensed, preparing to attack. Ember's instinct screamed danger. She was still learning this body, still couldn't shift back, couldn't defend herself properly. And the triplets, for all their power, were outnumbered and unclothed, vulnerable. But then movement exploded from the forest behind them. More wolves poured from the trees, guards wearing thornwood colors, at least a dozen, led by a massive gray wolf that could only be Finn. They formed a protective wall around the triplets and Ember, snarling challenges at Garrett's forces. "Did you really think," Asher said, satisfaction coloring his tone, "that we'd chase our cousin into the forest without backup?" Garrett's confidence flickered. His wolves shifted nervously, suddenly less certain of their numbers' advantage. "This isn't over," Garrett spat. "That creature isn't Lyra's daughter. She's a pretender. She's gold." The new voice froze everyone. An older woman emerged from the shadows behind Garrett's line, moving with regal grace despite her age. Her silver hair gleamed in the moonlight, and her presence radiated authority that made even Garrett step back. "Queen Mother," Asher's voice held surprise. "We didn't know you were here." "Obviously," Queen Regent Isla Thorne surveyed the scene with sharp eyes. "Or you might have shown more caution before breaking ancient magic in the middle of the night." She approached Ember slowly, studying her golden wolf form with an expression Ember couldn't read. "Only 2 wolves in our line have ever been gold," Isla said quietly. "My mother, Queen Moira, and my sister Lyra." Her voice cracked slightly on the name. "Both gone now, both lost to pride and politics and the violence that comes from greed." She knelt, bringing herself eye level with Ember's wolf. "When I heard the reports of a golden wolf running through our forest, I had to see for myself, had to know if it was possible, if after all these years—" Tears glittered in her eyes. "You have her eyes, Lyra's eyes, that same green, that same fire." Her hand reached out, trembling. "May I?" Ember's wolf, recognizing pack, recognizing family, pressed forward into the touch. Isla's composure shattered. She pulled Ember's wolf form into an embrace, burying her face in golden fur. "I'm sorry. Gods, I'm so sorry. I should have protected her, should have stopped them, should have found you." The raw grief in her voice made Ember's wolf whine softly. "Your Majesty," Garrett's voice held desperation now. "You can't possibly believe—" "Be silent." Isla's command cracked like a whip. She stood, still keeping one hand on Ember's head. "I know what you did, Garrett. What you all did." Her gaze swept the wolves who'd followed him. "You thought I didn't notice the gaps in reports? The convenient absences? The way certain names kept appearing around every attempt to find my sister's killers?" "We were protecting the pack," Garrett protested. "Lyra's child would have destabilized everything." "Lyra's child is my niece," Isla's voice could have cut stone. "My blood. And you murdered her parents, cursed her into helplessness, and let me believe my sister's entire line was dead." Power rolled off her in waves. "That's not protection. That's treason." The wolves behind Garrett began backing away, breaking formation. Realizing too late they'd chosen the wrong side. "Take them." Isla gestured to Finn and the guards. "All of them. Let the pack tribunal decide their fate." The guards moved swiftly. Some of Garrett's wolves surrendered immediately. Others tried to run and were caught within seconds. Garrett himself stood frozen, his face pale as death. "This isn't over," he whispered as guards seized him. "You think one golden wolf changes anything? She's been broken for 23 years. She'll never be strong enough." "She doesn't have to be." Asher's voice cut through the venom. "Because she has us. And me." Isla's hand tightened on Ember's fur. "She has family now. Pack. Protection she should have had from birth." As the guards dragged Garrett away, his threats and protests fading into the distance, Isla turned her attention back to Ember. "I know you can't shift back yet," she said gently. "First shifts are overwhelming, but I need you to try to understand what I'm saying. Can you do that?" Ember's wolf nodded. "Good." Isla's smile was sad. "I loved your mother more than anything. When she left, it broke something in me. And when I heard she'd died, that you died with her, She swallowed hard. "I stopped looking, stopped hoping. I convinced myself it was better to move forward than drown in grief." Her fingers traced patterns in Ember's fur. But you survived, against every odd, every cruelty. You survived, and now you're here, and I have a chance to do right by Lyra's memory, to give you the life she would have wanted for you. Ember's wolf pressed closer, offering comfort without words. When you shift back, Isla continued, we'll talk properly, about your place in the pack, your title, your future. But know this now, you are wanted, you are loved, and you will never be alone again. The promise wrapped around Ember like warmth, like safety, like everything she'd never let herself dream of having. Movement beside her drew attention. The triplets had shifted back to human form, unconcerned with nudity as they crowded close. The tribunal will convict Garrett, Asher said. We have witnesses, evidence, and now your wolf as proof of your identity. But that's just the beginning, Gray added, his hand settling on Ember's back. You'll need time to adjust, to learn control, to decide what you want. What she wants, Cole corrected, is to be free, to choose. That's all she's ever wanted. Isla looked between her sons and the golden wolf, understanding dawning in her expression. You've bonded, she said softly. All three of you. I can see it in how you move together, how you protect her. We protected our family, Asher replied carefully. You protected your mate. Isla's smile turned knowing. Don't bother denying it. I raised you. I know what mate bonds look like even before they're sealed. Mate bond. The word sent a jolt through Ember's wolf. But it felt right somehow. These three alphas who'd risked everything, who'd shared her pain, who stood with her now. That's her choice, Gray said firmly. When she can speak again, when she's ready, she decides. We won't push. Spoken like males who know they've already been chosen. Isla's expression softened. Take her home. Help her shift back. And then, she met Ember's wolf gaze directly. Then we begin making up for 23 years of stolen time. The journey back to Thornwood felt different. Ember ran beside the triplets instead of being chased by them, their wolves moving in perfect synchronization. Guards followed at a respectful distance, creating a protective perimeter. Pack. The word resonated in her wolf's mind. This was pack. This was belonging. By the time they reached her suite, exhaustion was pulling at Ember's consciousness. The adrenaline of the confrontation, the trauma of the binding breaking, the overwhelm of her first shift, all of it crashed down at once. Martha waited in the sitting room, her face streaked with tears. Oh, baby, my baby girl. Ember's wolf went to her immediately, pressing her muzzle into Martha's hands. Can you help her shift back? Gray asked Dr. Hayes, who'd remained with Martha. She needs to do it herself, but I can guide her. The healer knelt beside Ember. Focus on your human form. Picture your hands, your face, your body as it was. Your wolf will listen. It took 3 tries. 3 painful, awkward attempts before Ember finally felt her bones begin to shift again. The transformation hurt less this time, her body remembering the pathways. And then she was human again, kneeling on the carpet, gasping. Martha threw a blanket around her immediately. The triplets turned away, giving her privacy. I did it, Ember whispered, looking at her human hands in wonder. I shifted. I actually shifted. You did more than that. Martha pulled her close. You survived. You fought. You won. Tears came then. Relief and grief and joy all tangled together. Ember cried against Martha's shoulder while Dr. Hayes checked her over, confirming no lasting damage from the breaking. You should rest, the healer said finally. Your body needs time to recover. But Ember shook her head. Not yet. I need... She looked toward where the triplets stood with their backs turned, giving her space. I need to talk to them. Martha helped her stand, keeping the blanket wrapped around her. Boys, she's decent. They turned as one, 3 pairs of eyes, all holding the same intensity. Thank you, Ember said, voice still hoarse, for everything. For believing me, for protecting me, for... Her throat tightened. For carrying my pain. I felt it. Felt you taking it so I could survive. We'd do it again, Gray said simply. 1,000 times over. But why? The question burst out. You don't owe me anything. Don't even really know me. We know enough. Asher stepped closer. We know you're brave, strong, that you've survived things that would break most wolves, that you deserve better than what you've been given. We know you're ours, Cole added, his voice rough. Our family, our responsibility, our... He cut himself off, but Ember heard the word he didn't say. Mate. Your mother said you'd bonded with me. She looked between them. Is that true? Silence stretched. Then Gray spoke, careful and honest. Yes. The moment we shared your pain, something clicked into place. A connection that goes beyond just family, but... He raised a hand before she could respond. You don't have to accept it. Don't have to feel obligated. The bond exists, but it's not sealed. You can walk away. Choose differently. Choose freedom. I've never had freedom, Ember whispered. Never had choices. Everything was decided for me before I could even open my eyes. Then choose now. Asher's winter storm eyes held hers. Choose what you want, who you want. We'll respect it, whatever you decide. Ember looked at each of them, at Asher's fierce protection wrapped in ice, at Cole's warrior strength tempered with gentleness, at Gray's warm certainty that made her feel safe. 3 alphas, 3 mates, 3 pieces of something she hadn't known she'd been missing. I choose you, she said quietly, all 3 of you, if you'll have me. The air in the room changed, charged with something electric and inevitable. Are you certain? Gray asked. This isn't a decision to make lightly. Mate bonds are permanent, sacred. I'm certain. Ember let the blanket slip slightly, baring her throat in the traditional gesture of acceptance. I choose the wolves who freed me, who saw me when I was invisible, who made me believe I was worth saving. Cole moved first, crossing the distance in 2 strides. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. You were always worth saving. Then Asher was there, his fingers threading through her hair. You were always meant to be ours. And Gray, his arms coming around her from behind, completing the circle. You were always going to choose us. We felt it the moment we saw you. At the gathering, Ember breathed, when you stopped the ceremony. You knew then? We suspected. Gray's breath ghosted against her ear. Our wolves recognized something, even if we didn't understand what. Your scent, Cole added. It called to us. Drew us even when logic said we were wrong. We weren't wrong, Asher finished. We were just early. Ember laughed, the sound watery but genuine. So what now? Now, Gray said softly, we seal the bond, make it permanent, if that's what you want. Will it hurt? No. His smile pressed against her temple. It'll feel like coming home. And when they kissed her, first Gray, then Cole, then Asher, when they marked her throat with gentle teeth and whispered promises against her skin, when the bond snapped fully into place like lightning finding ground, Ember understood what home really meant. Not a place, not a throne or title or bloodline, but this. 3 wolves who chose her just as fiercely as she chose them. 3 hearts beating in rhythm with hers. 3 souls bound to hers for as long as they lived. Outside, dawn began breaking over Ashbourne Valley, and Ember Calloway, Omega, Princess, Survivor, finally felt free. Martha smiled through her tears as she watched her daughter, her chosen daughter, blood or not, embrace her destiny. Dr. Hayes quietly documented the completed mate bond for official records. And through the window, the valley awakened to a new day, unaware that their lost princess had returned. But they would know soon enough. And when they did, they'd learn what everyone who'd underestimated Ember Calloway already discovered. The broken Omega was never broken at all. She was just waiting for the right moment to shine gold. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe.